Hello people, how are you today? Today we're going to talk about the text editor called Vim. You probably already knew what it is when you're clicking this video, but it's basically like a text-based text editor that you can use from the terminal, and I think it's pretty cool. So this video is going to be split into 4 parts. The first part will be why I like Vim. And the second part will be how to use a basic command, like how to, just like the basic stuff of how it works. The third part will be like customization and color schemes. And the fourth part will be about like further like customization, extension, and like the vimrc and everything else. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. So let's just get started now. Okay, so here's why I like to use Vim. The reason is that if you're like a programmer, you probably have done something like on the command line before. For example, like echo hello, it can just like do whatever. That's why like Vim is really convenient, and that's the first reason I like to use it. Vim is a text-based text editor, so you can just like type Vim and it just instantly opens in the command line. You don't have to open any sort of like other app like Sublime Text does. So it's like really easy to get used to, and you can like, when you're doing whatever you need to do, you can just like open a file and just edit it directly inside the terminal. And also the next thing is speed. It is by far probably like one of the fastest like things to open. If you type Vim, that's almost instant. But if you do anything like Sublime Text, which is one of the fastest text editors, it still takes a good, I don't know, second or half a second to open. And like stuff like VS Code just takes like forever in comparison. See, it's like still loading. Hopefully it's launching, I don't know. But you can see that it's like it takes forever in comparison. See, it just showed up. So that's basically why I like Vim. It's basically instant and it's like fast. And also another like very minor thing is that it looks pretty good. It's just text based. You can't have any shapes. You can't have really that much colors. And I feel like for some reason that like the simple way just like it's kind of pretty appealing to me. I don't know why. And you can like customize all of the colors and everything. So that's basically the reasons I use Vim. And yeah, another thing is that keyboards, you can just operate everything on your keyboard. You can't even use your mouse, at least by default. So with your keyboard, you can, it's just like much faster than like what you can use with your other things. It might seem like inconvenient to not be able to use your mouse, but like in reality, it will save you a lot of time not having to like click around or just use your arrow keys. With Vim, you can like just move the cursor with the keys on the central of your keyboard, so HJKL, and that would make it like really fast and easy to use, and really quick, allow you to do stuff like really quickly. So that's basically why I use Vim, and let's just get on to the next part of the video. Okay, so let's just look at how Vim works now. And the first thing we need to do is see how it is, like how to install it. And if you're on macOS or Linux, it's pretty easy. It's just pre-installed by default. I believe you can just type Vim when you open a terminal emulator and it will work. But if you're on Windows, it's a bit more complicated. But what you do essentially is just go to vim.org and just click the download thing on the sidebar. And apparently it will like you can just like download one of these like exes and it will just work. I don't have like a Windows PC to test, so I'm not sure. If you get stuck, you can just like Google or search on YouTube how to install it, and you'll probably figure it out. But anyways, after we've done it, we can just type Vim and it should show you this page. And now if you notice, if you type some key like F or I don't know D or I don't know K or L, you can see that it doesn't do anything and it doesn't like type the text because there are 2 modes. So it's not like other text editors where you can just start typing instantly and all the keyboard shortcuts need something else like control or command. But instead for Vim, some keyboard shortcuts you can think of like can be done without any modifier keys. And this, for example, D is for delete, and if you press delete twice, it will delete the line. And this is called the command mode or the normal mode. And this mode, you can like do commands like delete or open or whatever. And this is a part of what makes Vim really like powerful, because this is the mode you will be spending for like most of the time, and you won't even, you can like do a lot of commands really quickly. But let's just say you want to type, you can just press the I key, and now you can say hello. Hello world people, and then just type, And how do you go back to your like default mode, because now you're just doing this. And you can move your cursor with the arrow keys, but this is not recommended. There are better ways to move your cursor. For example, if you want to go back, you can press the escape key. And now it will become the normal mode. So what you do now is that if you press the H key, it goes left. If you press the L key, it goes right. And if you press the J key, it goes downwards, and the K key to go up. So basically these are the arrows, and your arrows are now like conveniently positioned in the middle of the keyboard, which allows you to go back and forth much more quickly. And if you press D, like I said, it deletes the line. Okay, so before we continue, let's just talk about how we can actually exit Vim, because it's become a bit of a meme now of like people not being able to exit Vim and just like restarting the computer or something. So what you can do is press colon or just shift, semicolon, right, and it brings your cursor to the bottom. And what you can do is press Q. And what it gives you is called something like no write since last change. And what that means is basically you have unsaved changes, and you can just like force quit by saying Q as an exclamation mark. Great. And then you have successfully exited Vim. Okay, so let's just go over some basic navigation commands. So what you can do is that I already shown you how to use the H, L, J, K keys to like move around up and down by one. But there are actually like a lot more navigation commands because you can't use the mouse and you need to move quickly basically. So the first thing you can do is called W. So if you press W, it skips to each word. So it moves by the word. And each word also contains like punctuation, so if it's separated by punctuation, it counts as a word. If you press the B key, it goes back one word. It's pretty simple. So W stands for word or something, and B stands for, I don't know, B4. If you hold the shift key while pressing W, it ignores the punctuation and it treats like each section separated by a space as a word, I guess. So this moves a bit faster. Something else you can do is press GG to go to the beginning. If you press Shift G, it goes back. So you can do that. Also, if you want to, let's say you want to go to the word W, you can say FW, and it goes already there. So let's just try that again. Maybe you're here, you want to go to the H of HTML, you just say FH, and it just goes to HTML. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that's pretty useful to note is that if you press a number before going something, it does that thing 10 times. So if you press 10L, it goes by 10. So 10L, 10, see? Or like 20L, it goes 20H, it goes that way. You can do like 5W, it skips by 5 words at the same time. So this number thing is something that like not many people use, and it's very useful. You can use this for like anything. For example, the DD I show you. So like if you say 2DD, it removes 2 lines instead of 1. So that's basically how it works. You can also press GG, like if you want to go to the second line instead of, or the third line, you can say 3GG and it goes to the third line. If you want to go to the second line, 3GG. The fourth line, you can just move like that. Also, what you can do is, if you have multiple paragraphs, which is like, I guess, separated by a line or something, you can move between paragraphs using the brackets key and showing shift brackets, or basically like the bigger brackets, like that. And that's basically the very basic navigation commands. I know there's a ton of them, so if you want to like know more of them, or you can just leave your favorite commands on the comment section if you already know how to use them. But let's just go on to the next part, which is editing. So for editing, there's also a lot of commands, and the first thing we're going to do is undo. So for U, you can press U to undo all of your operations, just like that. And if you want to redo, you press Control R. Okay, so let's just go over some other stuff that's really useful. If you accidentally, I don't know, mistyped a word, for example, like if you mistype word like that, what you can do is press Control R, and if you press the R key, not Control R, just like lowercase r, right? If you press R, you can press RL, and that will change that to R, and now that changes the letter. So if you want to say, for example, the tag, you want to change it to H2 now, you can change it, or H3, you can just do that. By the way, it looks like I'm typing a capital R, but that's just my screen recording like key press software that capitalizes everything. But when I say like it's a lowercase r, it's a lowercase r. I showed you how to do dd to delete a line. You can also do div to delete the word, and you can just undo like that. What you can also do is dip to delete the paragraph, and there dis. No, I'm not sure if that's how it works, but maybe something to delete the sentence. And there's also a thing called C, which works very similar to D, but when you delete it, it goes to insert mode, kind of like change. So if you say CC, it's the same as D, but now you can type without pressing I, and you can just escape and delete that and undo or something. If you do CIV, it's really useful for changing a word. So if you say like CIV hello people, you can just change it instantly, like really quickly like that. Oh, and if you want to cut something, you can say X. You can do like that. Basically removes one word. You can do a lot of stuff like that. And if you press P, it pastes whatever word you deleted. Okay, so there's another mode called visual mode, and this is basically the selection mode. If you want to select some text, you press the V key, and then you move as your standard like cursor, and you can press escape to escape it. So let's say you select the body tag, and maybe you want to select the HTML, you go here, but you can press the O key to go back to toggle the cursor to the other side, and now you can select the HTML here. So I find that pretty cool. You can switch the size of the cursor. What you can do now is press operation. So if you press D, it deletes the whatever you selected. If you press X, it cuts it, and now if you can press P to paste. If you press Shift V, it goes into this like line selection mode. So it's not just word selection, it just selects by line, and I find that pretty useful if you want to select large pieces of text. And by the way, all of the navigation commands I showed you before work. So for example, W still goes back and forth, and G goes to the beginning, back like the end, and GG goes to the beginning. So in this visual mode, what you can also do is Y. So Y copies it without like cutting. So Y stands for yank, I guess. You can just yoink it somewhere like that. You can also select some text by doing VIW to select the word. You can also do like VIP to select the paragraph. So you can do stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Now, one last mode that there is called the command mode. So that's what happens when you go to when you press the semicolon and your, not semicolon, just colon, and your cursor goes to the back or like the bottom of here where you have command. So the first thing is help. So help, I guess if you type help, I don't know, J, it will show you some things like J to move down, and that's pretty cool. So help, it has a lot of stuff. If you press Q, it closes a window only. So yeah, so J, H for help is really useful. Help, I don't know, visual, you can, for like visual mode, when using something like that, you can see a lot of stuff, and you can just like move around and see the tutorials on how to do this. Another thing is W. W is for writing. So no file name. So write, you can say test.html, for example, and it just saves the file like that. If you do WQ, it saves and quits. And now if you want to edit the file previously, you can say test.html, you can press tab to autocomplete, and you get this back. Also, what you can do is if you have something like the quick, I don't know, I'm just typing a random word like quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. If you have something like that, you can go into the visual mode and select everything, and then press colon to go to the command mode and say sort. Oh, it sorted everything. Let me try. Yeah, if you just sort, it sorts those. So that's pretty cool. You can just press sort to sort stuff alphabetically. And those are basically the basics. There are tons more to do, but this is the basics of seeing how Vim works. Okay, so let's just go over some customization functions. So here is Vim that I fully customized, and you can see how good it looks compared to this. So this is yeah, so let's just show you some customization options that I feel like is really cool. What you can do first of all is syntax on to enable the syntax. That's the first thing definitely that's useful to have syntax highlighting, and you can say mouse equals a, or I think you need to do set. So now you can use your mouse actually. So if you click, you can actually select the text using your mouse instead of just like not being able to use it at all. You can also scroll using your mouse. You will notice that if you quit Vim and then if you open it, your settings are gone. So what you need to do is create a file called .vimrc. So if you open a new window, right, cd, go to your root directory, do like touch .vimrc or something like that, and then you can say vim.vimrc to just open it, and you can do stuff like that. So you can say syntax equals on. And now if you write that, you can just quit by force quit, and then if you just say vim for the HTML, like it's syntax on, not syntax equals on, right? So now if we do this, it works, and now when you open it, it does stuff as expected. So another thing is that if you press tabs, you might notice like the tabs are pretty big, and a lot of text editors use spaces anyways. And what you can do here is that I'm just going to show you my customized vimrc from like another thing, so I don't need to remember it. Let's see, set expand tab. So if you go there, right, set expand tab, you can say set expand tab. Great. And then you have to say set shift width, I believe. Set shift width equals 4, and set tab stop equals 4. So what you do now is that you can, if you do that, and if you relaunch this for it to take effect, but yeah, if you relaunch this, you can see that now if you do tabs, it actually does space it. So that's pretty useful, and I would say that's definitely recommended to keep on. Two things is mapping. So if you don't like how keyboard mapping works, you can always remap it. So if say no remap and JK to escape. So if you, for example, think that typing escape is too complicated or like too difficult to reach, you can just do this. And now if you want to go into insert mode, you can press JK really quickly to go. You don't have to press any modified keys. This has a problem if you're typing JK a lot. You can't really type it. You have to like wait a bit to type, but yeah, that's the downside. But you can still have that. And I find it pretty easy, and most of the time I won't even type JK in insert mode. Like there's no words that begin with JK and no like coding terms that also do. So it doesn't really matter. So that's basically like the top most important shortcuts, and there are a lot of them. As I said, like set mouse equals A to like for interactive and doing whatever. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna show you is the color scheme and the plugins basically. Okay, so next, like a really powerful thing about Vim is that you can install plugins, and there are tons of people making Vim plugins because it's like an open source app. And so there's one thing that I use called Vim plug, and it's just like a Vim plugin manager. Yeah, so if you just copy this command to your terminal, you can just paste it in, and it will just create a directory in like .vim autoload. So if you go back to the main thing, if you say ls.vim/autoload, like it just creates plug.vim, and now whenever you launch it, it will work. So you just need to copy and paste that single command, and that's basically it. So what you do when you're actually going to install plugins is say call plug #begin vim.plug, that's the directory, and then just say plug whatever, like all the plugins that you need the name of them, and then you say call in plug, and then those plugins will exist now. And one of them is called rough box. So it's just like a color scheme that I really like to use. I would say it's a pretty nice one. It's called retro whatever, but it looks pretty nice on the terminal. And all you need to do is that you just find this directory on GitHub and you just paste that name there, and I just did that. And what you need to do is after a restart of Vim, you can say plug install like that, and now it just installs everything. I have already had everything installed, so it does nothing, but if you want to install stuff, it installs that. And then you can set the color scheme, and what you can do is say color and just rough box, and that will be done. So if you say the default, there's like a lot of them, color, yeah, color desert or desert. This one is nice. So yeah, you can like really customize the colors. So let's just go over all of the plugins that I have done. So the first stuff is the nerd tree. So nerd tree is this like file browser on the left, which is like really helpful in case you don't want to, do a lot of finding files and like using some other commands. So you can just like see all of your files here without searching for them. So that's nerd tree, and then there's a nerd tree git plugin, which is for showing like git differences in the nerd tree. The next thing is that I have is the indent line. So indent line is for these things. So by default, Vim doesn't come with these like indent lines, but you can have these lines to see like where you are, and it's actually really helpful. Yeah, Vim git gutter is where you make a git change. You can see that now. I have this like vimrc in the GitHub repo, so you can see that stuff changes. You can see the pluses. If I delete something, there's a minus there. So yeah, I would say that's really cool. There's a Vim snippets, which is part of for like COC and just like, yeah, just snippets autocomplete. Because what I have is something called coc.invim. Let's just find it, so it's there. And this is basically like a really powerful autocomplete. By default, Vim doesn't really have this, but you can say call and then it will just, I don't know, it will autocomplete really stuff. And you can just install language autocompletions for like JavaScript, HTML, Python, Vim script, anything, C, whatever. So you just have that. So snippets is also for that, for like some auto expanding snippets. Auto pairs is just a really simple thing for when you have parentheses, quotes, whatever, to auto complete the other side. Let's see. Yep. FDF is this fuzzy finder, so it is basically like its own app, but you can just type the name and you can search for the file that you want in the directories. Yeah. Vista is this thing for showing your site. If you cd to like one of the things, and it goes to like this direction, like directory of like the functions or whatever. In JavaScript, you can see the functions and variables. In HTML, you see the tags, and it's like a really nice way of seeing stuff and organizing stuff. Vim visual multi, that's basically like multiple cursors on Vim. I'm not sure what else I can elaborate on. Yeah, Grubbox I showed you before, and tree setter is pretty interesting. It's something that's supported by default in NeoVim 2.0.5. And yeah, by the way, this thing is called NeoVim, and it's basically the same thing as Vim except like a few extra features. And yeah, that's why I use it. This Vim tutorial, like this thing, is pretty cool, and it has a plugin called tree setter, which basically has better syntax highlighting for everything. So there's nerd commenter, which basically allows you to use some command to like comment without typing the comment character on like stuff. So if you select something, you can comment and uncomment everything. So that's pretty cool. Another thing is, yeah, nerd tree I showed you. Prettier is basically like for formatting. So I don't think the like Vim like this thing supports it, but some like other stuff, like if you press P here, it formats everything, I guess. So you can just do that. There's another thing called this, which is basically a way of like, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like a preview for colors. So if you enable like shoe colors, which you can display any colors in the terminal, you can have these like color previews in your CSS colors and whatever, like hexadecimal hex colors. Okay, this is a Vim fugitive. It's like a git plugin, so you can say like git commit whatever. It's the same thing kind of like with your command line. So yeah, it just enables that in Vim. Vim surround, I believe, is for changing your, yeah, you can change, for example, like your quotes. So if you change that to double quotes to single quotes really quickly, you can change it like, yeah, just stuff like that. And the Vim airline is just like really cool looking bottom line thingy that it gives you. So, and then you can have a lot of statistics on like what line you're on, what file you're, whether the file is modified, etc., etc. And it also gives you like a cool tab bar of your buffers and whatever else. And that's basically all of the plugins. I know this is kind of like a bit disorganized, but yeah, whatever. So these are like my Vim customization options. You can see all of the other things, which are just like other, you know, settings for stuff. Yeah, there's also the Vim dev icons, which are these icons. You need to install a custom font for that, which is how it's supposed, like, able to render this. But yeah, so thanks for watching and see you next time.